It was day 2 of Coachella, and the sun had begun to set over the desert hills, casting long shadows over the festival grounds. The crowd had thinned out a bit as everyone was grabbing snacks or resting in anticipation of the headliner's arrival. Amidst all the commotion, I noticed something strange. A figure standing at the periphery of the crowd, just behind the blurring lights and temporary stalls. He was an artist, or at least that's what his sign advertised. Face and body painting, only $20. But something made me shiver. He wasn't the type of artist to be there just for the money. His clothes were worn, his face was thin, and his eyes too intense, as if he had some secret you didn't. I was intrigued, and I took my friends Mia and Josh and told them that we should do it. I mean, Coachella was all about experiencing new things, right? We approached the booth and viewed the artist sitting calmly behind a folding table covered in sketchbooks and face paint bottles. The man did not even look up at us as we approached him stealthily, but there was some kind of strange aura about him that made him feel like he knew each step we were taking. "Do you want to give it a try?" he asked, his tone soft but commanding. Mia, always the improviser, stepped forward immediately. "Sure, why not?" He finally looked up, meeting her eyes. His gaze made me shiver. It was not the kind of look a regular person gives to another person. There was something about it that felt wrong, like he was staring right into her very soul. "Choose a design," he told her, gesturing toward the small book of sketches on the table. It was filled with intricate patterns and wordless symbols, some of which didn't quite look right. They looked old, as if from an archaic language or ancient myths. Mia flipped through the pages, but she didn't seem to mind the unusual patterns. She was almost entranced by them instead. She picked out a design that was sort of a circular form, with spirals and lines that extended to the center, a symbol that sent hair standing up on the back of my neck. "That one," Mia said, pointing to the design. The artist nodded as if he knew she'd choose that one. He spoke not a word, just grasped a brush and started in on her face. His movements were slow and deliberate, as if he'd done it 1,000 times before. The strange thing was, the more he painted, the more the design seemed to live. The lines glimmered, shifting minutely in the light, as if they were moving somehow just under the skin. Josh and I exchanged a look, but Mia didn't notice. She was too caught up in the moment, too focused on the artist's work. He was finished and stepped away, his expression unreadable. "There," he said, "it's done." Mia stood to view herself in the mirror he offered. Her eyes widened in amazement. "Wow, this is amazing. It looks not what I thought it would." The artist did not say a word. He just stood there, his gaze still locked on her, an odd glint in his eyes. Josh next. He struggled, but when he saw how excited Mia was, he shrugged and sat down for his turn as well. He chose a pattern less complex, just some jagged lines across his face. But the moment the artist started painting, I saw the same unsettling shift in the room. The lines seemed to pulse under Josh's skin, glowing softly, as if the paint was not just color, but more. After the artist finished, Josh looked at his reflection and furrowed his brow. This isn't what I meant. It looks weird. Maybe it's just the lighting," I said, trying to calm him down. But something in my gut told me there was more to it than that. As we walked away from the booth, I noticed a few other people with the same strange markings, some on their faces, others on their arms or necks. They were all abnormally subdued, too subdued actually. There was a vacancy in their eyes, as if they were under some sort of spell, and I couldn't help but think that something was very, very wrong. The night wore on, and the three of us were caught up in the usual Coachella craziness. But as we wound our way through the people, I noticed something peculiar. People who had been painted by the artist were acting strangely. Mia, typically hyper and laughing, became quieter during the course of the night. Her actions were slow and deliberate, and she kept looking over her shoulder as though someone or something was following her. Josh was not much better. He was still rubbing his face as though the patterns on his skin were itching or burning. "Dude, I feel weird," he muttered under his breath. "Like totally weird." I dismissed it. Maybe it was the heat or the exhaustion finally getting to them. But then things just got even stranger. We were standing by one of the smaller stages waiting for the next performance to begin when Mia came to a sudden stop, her eyes wide with terror. "Mia?" I asked, taking a step closer. She didn't move. She stood there gazing out at the crowd, and when I turned and saw what she was seeing, I saw it. The artist standing far away from us, looking at us with the same intense, knowing stare. But something else was in his eyes now, something sinister. "Mia, come on," I said, shaking her arm, but she didn't move. She gazed at me, her expression dead and white. "We can't go," she said gently in shock. "It's too late." I didn't have a chance to say anything before Josh screamed at the top of his lungs. I turned and saw him grasping his arm, where the pattern on his arm had started to smolder, the zigzagging lines of paint smoking as if alive. The marks were spreading across his skin, developing like a web, and the pain on his face was unmistakable. "Let's get out of here," I yelled, but Mia wouldn't budge, and Josh could barely move. I have no idea what happened next, but it was as if everything around me had stopped. The crowd had stopped, the music had stopped, and the only sound I could hear was the thumping of my own heart. Abruptly, a blinding, burning pain exploded through my head. I looked up, and the painter stood over me, his face inches from my own. His mouth curled into a smile that was not of this world. "You shouldn't have looked," he told me, his tone cold and removed. The last I remember is running as fast as I could, while the world around me twisted and contorted into something I did not know. By the time I escaped from the crowd and reached safety, Mia and Josh were nowhere to be seen. Vanished. Nothing. No trace. No sign of them. I never saw the artist again, and I never saw the designs on their faces and bodies. But the mark that he left, that sensation, it remains. Each year, I'd hear whispers about the disappearing artist who's always on hand at Coachella, always selling his artwork for too much money. And each year, I couldn't help but question whether anyone else ever noticed the strange-looking individuals walking around with the same unsettling marks.